Welcome to Your True Awakening, the podcast where we dive deep into what it means to live your purpose and create a life that feels true to who you are. I'm your host, Sandra True, here to guide you on a journey of soulful exploration and inner mastery. Together, we're here to unravel the layers and challenge the status quo to unlock the wisdom that helps you shine from the inside out. So each week, we'll have a powerful conversation with some of the world's most inspiring leaders, spiritual mentors, and artists who are lighting the way for a more conscious, abundant, and joyful life. From ancient wisdom to modern practices, we'll explore transformative tools and inspiring stories to help you live, love, and lead authentically. Whether you're at a turning point in your life or stepping into more power or simply seeking more depth and meaning in your everyday moments, this is your invitation to step out of the ordinary and break free from old patterns so that you can awaken your true potential. So, if you're ready to laugh, reflect, and expand, you are in the right place. So, let's get started. I'm super excited because today I'm having a conversation with my dear sister, dear friend Ana Capozzoli, who is an incredible holistic health coach, fitness expert, and founder of Rise. Rise is a beautiful community. It's also an app, and she is helping women heal from the inside out by focusing on gut health, hormones, and emotional transformation. And this is because after years of bodybuilding, eating disorders, and burnouts, she found true wellness through holistic healing and now guides women to reclaim their energy, balance their bodies, and rise to their higher selves. And she
Yay.
really is a living message. And I'm so proud of seeing her transformation firsthand after the years that I've seen you. Anna, how are you? I'm so glad that you're here.
Oh, thank you, sister. Thank you for having me. I'm so honored. I'm so honored to be here on this platform joining you, which I admire you so much. So thank you so much for having me and giving me the space to explore, express, and just share a message. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Today, the conversation we wanted to have with you is how to heal the body shame so that we can reclaim our power. And this is important because it is not enough to just go into trying to fix our weight or just do the emotional work. We really need to think of our being as a whole system that requires presence from the emotional side, from the physical side. We need to think holistically. And I
Mhm.
thought this would be such a beautiful conversation to have with Anna because we probably see clients coming to us for the same thing. I probably get a lot of clients that come to me that end up being physical and working out, but they didn't find me for that reason. And people probably come to you because, they want a little waist and they want to feel strong and they want the big butt, but they didn't come to, they don't even see it coming. But you're
Mhm.
going to get to them
Mhm.
through like, what's the real work here?
Yes, and I'm so happy you brought that up because a lot of women just come in general focusing on what they see, right? And I don't blame them because we do live in a world where everything is dedicated to how we look. We live in this superficial type of way where the first thing we see, that's the first thing we kind of see that we need to fix, right? But when we really sit with ourselves deeply, us as I can share my story. I was constantly in this battle of looking a certain way for many, many years. And this comes back from like my inner child, the way I grew up. I grew up in a society in Venezuela where beauty standards were so high, where you must fit the standard to kind of be seen or be loved or be acknowledged, right? And I know that you're from Colombia, and I feel like we share some sort of similarity values in the sense of the beauty, right? Of how you're supposed to look. What is it that you're supposed to be like? I remember that when I was a child, I was even put into this academy of modeling before I was 5 years old.
That was
I was
me. Learning how to eat
exactly.
the right way with the forks and this how to sit and how to walk with the book on my head. Oh
Oh
my
my God. And it's so cute. It's so funny because I was also before 5, I think I was around 3 or 4, and then they teach you how you're supposed to sit, how you're supposed to walk. They put the stick on the back so your
yeah.
back is completely straight, right? And then these little habits that they start molding us as kids. And it's not to say that I will blame anybody because they didn't know much, right? Like this is how our parents grew up. So coming from that aspect, going backwards, because it's the only way to connect the dots is looking backwards, is it was always about how we look in a certain way. But now that we have the media, and I don't call it social media anymore because we're not looking to socialize. It's all about what we see, entertainment. People are looking for entertainment. So we go back to that of how we look. So, not to get off subject, the physical aspect of it, when women come to me, they're like, oh, I want to get a smaller waist or I want to look a certain way. And I jokingly say, oh, let me put the odor for you. Because that's the first thing we're seeing, right? It's like, no, we're not shopping for a different body. We want to change certain things because we believe we're going to feel a certain way, right? And this is where I attach to an emotion because how we look is exactly how we feel. So yes, we can aim to lose fat here, get tone here, but in reality is the feeling that we're so seeking. We want to feel great in our skin, we want to feel confident, we want to feel sexy, and we think that if we look this way, that's how we're going to feel. But then that's when the breakthrough comes of understanding that the feeling has to come before the body, right? So in this industry that we live in, especially me, right? That I built a whole brand out of physical fitness, right? I grew up with an eating disorder, body dysmorphia, and we can dive deep more into that. And building a brand for physical aspect has a beautiful pros and cons. People are going to come to the brand for the look, right? But then what we have to target now is the emotional side, which is where my biggest awakening spiritual connection came into play and where my biggest transformation in life happened.
I mean, I met you at a ayahuasca ceremony years ago.
Yes. Yes.
Right? Like
Um,
sister, and we just went deep into this beautiful. We collaborated. We've worked together before, so we know each other's stories intimately. The beauty of it is that what you're bringing up is that there's nothing wrong with beauty. Actually, I love aesthetics. I love looking beautiful. I love
yeah.
getting clothes that makes me feel like a queen. I love having my home look like there's nothing wrong with beauty. I think that it's a big important part of what women are here to do to beautify life. We're like the flowers of the world. Like what would the life be without the flowers? And at the
Yes.
same time, if there's no presence, right? Like what is the that is making the flowers blossom? If we're disconnected from that true power that comes from understanding our worth, right? Like what is giving me aliveness in this moment? And then from that place, knowing that our worth is not something we get from outside, from how my body looks, but it's actually something that comes from understanding that I have never been unworthy,
Yeah.
that I have never lost that maybe I had the trauma and the abuse, because there's a lot that happens with women: trauma,
Mhm.
abuse, betrayal, lack of trust, abandonment, all the things that could happen that essentially breaks the link between, oh well, there might be something to do with the way that I'm not taking care of my body and self-worth. Because if you understand your worth, you are naturally drawn to understand yourself as your physical form, as a little garden of this creation that you're a part of, and you are inclined to love it, to get
Yeah.
into it. So
Yes.
weight struggles are rarely just physical.
Mhm.
Emotional pain is and trauma is and unworthiness is rarely just emotional, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yes.
all linked. So how
Yeah.
we internalize shame is what essentially is disconnecting us from our power. What are your thoughts on this?
So, and I'll take you back into a journey because I think it's one of the things that I learned through this was that we all have our seasons, right? So, being brought up in an industry where my mom taught me like don't eat this because you're going to gain weight or you have to look this way. As a child, I imprinted that in my mind as if I do get heavy, then mom is not going to love me. Because as a child, you can't comprehend why am I supposed to look a certain way? Why is this food going to make me heavy, right? So as time progressed, when I enter physical endurance, right, I was in a phase in my life where I just wanted to learn how to deal with emotion, but at the same time numb them, because I, in my head, didn't have time to feel, right? I came to a new country. I moved to the US when I was 9 years old. And I had to start working very, very early in age. So I had to kind of like be in this, I got to be in this grown up body very early in life, which I am so thankful for. But through those, it taught me that the season that I was in, it wasn't so much about how I looked, it was more about how do I numb, right? And this is when we connect the emotion to the body. How do I numb what's going on in my head? How do I numb what I'm feeling that I don't have time to process? So I go and endure in the gym. I go and feel physical pain. So it takes me away from my mental state, right? It takes me away from what's really happening internally, right? Now, fast forward, I still had an eating disorder. I had a lot of severe health issues. And when I turned 18, I go into the bodybuilding world, which not long ago I said to somebody, when you see someone that's in really, really good shape, most likely they're going into pain. Because for somebody to, if you think about it, there's only 1% or a little bit over of people that look really fit, especially in America. And those people are dealing with their own depression, emotional states, their own how to suppress emotion and feel more physical pain. This is why they've taken their body to look in a way that is not normal. And in that season in life, I was running in just survival mode. That was my own survival mechanism. Now, when I work with women, most of women's survival mechanism is numbing through food, right? Or maybe pharmaceuticals, food, and this is their numbing mechanism.
I have two more, right?
Hmm. Yeah,
Working, people pleasing, right? Like,
correct.
I mean, there's so many. There's like
So
getting
many.
super busy, like getting your calendar full of
Hmm.
activity, like just extreme busyness. Like those
Yeah,
are ways that we can ignore what's actually here. And the
correct.
idea that you don't have time, you just said that, it's so like it's like I don't have time. It's like I hear
Hmm.
that so often, and for me, it's like you don't have capacity to hold intensity yet. You haven't
Correct.
developed that. It's very different. Keep going, please.
Yes, and thank you for bringing that up, because we all, as women, as humans, we tend to grab onto something to process emotions in our own way, in our own capacity, right? And through that, those little habits that we obtain, for example, for me, it was physical pain. So what did I do? I lift in the gym. Without eating, I lift in the gym, being very strict, because that allowed me to numb more and to feel more physical pain. Some people workaholic. Let me work more on this, but my body is, I'm still numbing, working or neglecting, and it's showing up in the body. So
Mhm.
why do I bring this up? Because any season that you feel like you're numbing your emotions, if you look in the mirror, you can see them. No matter what weight you're in, no matter what physical shape you're in, look at your physical body, and it's a pure reflection of how you process emotions and trauma,
Mhm.
because that's how your body copes with it. And there's a beautiful study where your body holds trauma. It becomes illness. It also stores fat, because fat makes the body feel what? Comfortable in a way. Warm, that security blanket.
Protected, right? Like you see that
Protected, yes.
women that have dealt with rape, right? It's also like sex
Hmm.
is a very important topic here. That maybe
Hmm.
it wasn't in my notes, but really thinking about this, like another way that women are giving away their ability to sense and feel and actually have the space to be with what is giving their sexuality away, right? Like
Hmm.
trying to get that one hit, and then the loneliness comes, and then it's just like what's the next thing that I can do to avoid. So
Correct.
like I have seen that a lot of women that I in the past, I'm not seeing that so much right now, but in the past, women who would come to me would have a health like weight issues. It was a pattern I was witnessing. Some sort of
Hmm.
abuse, some sort of situation that it was sexually that they couldn't cope with, and it was like, let me put on this weight so I can protect myself, so I can be
Hmm.
protected.
Yeah, and I relate so much. Like, I was molested as a child. I was also abused. I was raped. And for me, again, physical pain was my answer. My answer was not eating because that attachment to food went away when my mom said, "This is going to make you gain weight." So, mind you, as a child, I was always looking for this validation. I didn't have a father. So, my only blanket was kind of mom, right? And then mom was working, so busy working everywhere that she didn't have time, right? She putting, not didn't have time, but her time was spent at work. So, me and my brother would spend a lot of time alone. So, in my mind, is like, okay, if I eat, this is the only person I have to show that I am worthy of her love. She's not gonna love me if I gain weight. So immediately block the relationship with food. Immediately find other ways to process emotion because I started working early. I started picking up stress. So I chose the physical route, which it was bodybuilding, creating more body dysmorphia than what I had before. Because now if you see our patterns, and I think I love sharing my story because I feel like I got to live and I'm still living such a beautiful experience in life where I can relate in so many different variables in life. In the sense of abuse, eating disorder, depression, suicidal thoughts, which we all tend to have at some point in our life, right? When we don't feel worthy enough, when we don't feel seen by ourselves, right? To ourselves. And we find ways, we spoke about this, watching, eating, enduring, whatever it is, to numb that. And I think this is such an important factor to understand that as humans, I learned through the years, and when we sat in ayahuasca was one of my first times seeing the worth of life. And I also understood that everybody has their season to feel that if they get to, right? So when I work with women, and we go into this whole spiral of like, oh, my physical, my physical, my physical, sooner or later what comes down to the root, and this is where I focus on the root cause of what's happening: illness, autoimmune disease, diabetes, anything, emotional trauma, depression, everything stems from a root. When did it start? Right? That's the uncomfortable root. But the minute that we open that uncomfortable door, guess what happens to the body? It starts to let go. It just starts to let go. It's not about restriction. It's not about how many calories am I going to eat. Of course, the body can only endure if you're really in tune with your physical body and your emotions. You understand that there comes a time when you're eating that your body would tell you, I'm okay. And when you're in tune with that and you're no longer neglecting, you're no longer numbing, you can actually listen to that. I have a client that shared with me, she's like, I know she started shedding weight like crazy after the breakthrough. And she's like, I no longer want to numb my emotions. And then when she decided that, that's when the body started responding. She was doing diets before, she was training before, she was doing everything right, which is the biggest point here. People look at their physical body, they're like, I'm doing everything right. I'm doing diets, I'm training, I'm walking more. I don't eat fast food. Why is my body not responding? We go back to that root. What's happening internally, right? What's happening in your gut?
I love this because you really are essentially like standing for my point in life. And I'm gonna stand for your point in life, right now, which is like
Hmm.
I have so many clients that come and they do the involution work, and we do the work of connecting to our soul and doing the mindset and aligning and developing the psychological functions and doing this deep inner work. And then unless they start doing the action of getting into their bodies, like doing the embodiment work, which means what is a person that now has the integration of loving themselves? How does that person act in the world? What is the action of somebody that's loving themselves as they're living their daily life? Not I did it, I went to the person, we had this amazing hypnosis work when I saw my inner child and I went and I healed it and I did a done check. No, it's like that's step one. That actually releases the pattern. You're bringing something from the unconscious to the conscious field, releasing the tension and perhaps the tendency, but your environment is still the same. And unless you train yourself to change your physical actions to be in alignment with the inner work that you've done, you're going to go back to the tendency. And so the ability that we need to develop is of matching the inner work with the outer evolution work. Like, what are the actions that I'm taking to make a statement for the new truth that I'm living?
Mm-hmm.
And in our
Mm-hmm.
stories, Anna relates so much. I also come from, being a daughter of a mother that was a teenager. Also from Colombia, moved here, overworking, had a whole lot of things happen with stepdads, and just self and like shame and like body shame, physical shame, like years of self-hatred. Some people are like, oh
Mm-hmm.
my God, you're so happy. I'm like, this is like this is developed potential. This is a whole lot of life practice. This is not
Yes.
inherited, right? Like, I grew up
Mm-hmm.
with a lot of self-hatred and a lot of behaviors that were in consort with that, right? A lot
Mm-hmm.
of overworking, a lot of like just partying, treating my body like shit, drugs, all the thing, like raging as a young teenager and adult, and like young
Mm-hmm.
adult, because I needed to find something to connect to, because I felt so empty inside.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, the work is not just doing that inner thing, right? The work is also doing,
No.
how do I make a stand for it? It's like, yeah, we get to the root, that's beautiful, but how am I living that? How am I taking the actions that are in accordance with that new aha?
Mhm. I heard something before, which I think it deeply connects because you just said people comment on your joy. People look at a physical body, they're like, oh my God, I want that tomorrow. Or a business, oh, I want to be as successful. But what you didn't see is what cultivated that, right? Think about it as when we're working, and I'm going to make it as basic as possible. So when we're working on the body, to gain muscle, we have to do repetitions. We have to focus on how many times to repeat to failure to break and tear the muscle. So when it repairs, it constructs and builds, right? It's the only way to build muscle. So if we really think about the basics of that in life, when you look at anybody, wherever you're head, and you look at, oh, I want to be like that. I want to be as happy and as motivated, as inspiring as Sandra, or I want to have this physical body like that. You're looking at an end goal of so many endurance and so many repetitions daily. So if we invite ourselves to focus on repetitions daily, the ultimate goal, whether it's the physical, whether it's financial freedom, whether it's the peace, the fulfillment, the joy in our life,
The good booty.
yes, that's gonna come. That is the actual, let's say, side effect of those days of repetition. We have to understand that the journey, the enduring, the failures, the embodiment, the journey of even finding out how to do it is what's going to give you the ultimate result, right? But I feel like sometimes people, or they sell this idea of get this as fast as possible, but it's not about getting there. It's not about when I get to be joyful. No, no. It's what we endure in those reps, right? It's how much in that journey we're learning and we're rebuilding, that is constructing this resilience, self love, this energy that just shines through you. It shows the work. So I admire that so much. When I see you, when I see someone that's in a great shape and great health, energy wise, I know that it didn't take overnight, because it's a lie. Nothing happens overnight, right? It's those moments that we don't get to see. That if we were to witness, we probably like, oh my God, why are you doing that? Like that immediately is like, why are you going that uncomfortable, right? Why are you going that deep? I remember when we even met, I was so scared in the ayahuasca ceremony. I was like, what am I gonna see? Like I'm ready for it, but I don't know what to expect. And the unknown becomes so fearful. And it's so crazy because I started to realize through that journey of self healing my patterns that got me where I am today, right? It was the only way that I was able to really see me was when I started opening that uncomfortable door of let's look at ourselves in the mirror. No longer outside of me or what happened to me, but what happened for me, right? It's like, let me look in. Like, it didn't happen to me, it happened for me. Oh my God, what is this showing me? What is this teaching me? And that repetition of practice, it embodied me to transform not only internally, but again, we go back to the physical. People look at me now and they're like, your face, your body, everything changed. What did you do? And the only thing that I can say is I started to heal. I started to sincerely heal. Heal like inwards, like deep, deep down to that uncomfortable phase where we're so in fear of feeling. We're so in fear of that we're meant to as humans. We're meant to feel. This is what we call a human experience. We get to feel, but yet we're so uncomfortable by feeling, and that unraveling is like, wait, why am I uncomfortable feeling, right? Like, what is it
Yeah,
about feeling that is so scary? Why do I fear? And fear is a feeling, right? Like, what do I fear to feel sad? But I want to ask for happiness. I want to always feel joy, but I don't want to feel sad, right? Or I don't want to feel angry. I don't want to feel disappointment. And I don't want to feel, it's like the minute that I even went through that ayahuasca, I literally, my intentions were like, show me what do I need to see. And for me became that unraveling of what it is, like what is human, like what are we supposed to be as humans. And the first thing that came up for me was that feeling. And when I allow myself to feel, I remember that I stopped crying a very long when I was a child. Like, I think I stopped crying when I had my first trauma was at 3 years old. I got abused at 5, and then I started numbing. And I stopped crying. They got to a point that I stopped crying. But little did I know further down in life that I stopped feeling happy, because I numbed. And I believe, and I don't know if you see and you can connect with this, that all emotions come from one door. Whether it's happiness, excitement, scarcity. For me, it looked like it was all one door. For me to feel joy, I must allow pain. I must allow to feel scared. I must allow to feel all the types of emotions that comes in that door, which is a feeling,
yeah.
right? And when I started to feel, the first thing I started to cry, and I'm like, crying of everything. You just joy, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm crying. This is amazing. I'm feeling, right? I'm
Oh
feeling.
my God, I love
But
it.
then we ask to feel, and then we shall feel, right? So that when we open that first door, it's like, oh, now I feel everything.
Oh my gosh, Anna, like you're speaking my language. In Hermetics, we speak about the law of polarity, which is like the ancient alchemy, like the law of
Hmm.
polarity, where you're speaking about sensation. And the thing is that if you shut off sensation, you're shutting off your capacity to feel pleasure and pain. So that keeps you from being human. Like
Yeah.
that's the beauty of existence, is that you came here to have feeling, because in other realms everything is period, is pure acceptance, pure isness. Here on earth we have senses, and senses are essentially the first step to our emotions, right? They give life to our emotions. We're here to sense and feel and emote. The problem, or I think the thing that we have never been taught, really, this is the work that I do with people, because this should be taught in schools, is that we are having something that is moving through us, and many of us are scared to feel because we think that's going to be our new way of being, when in reality, if you have the fullness of feeling, it probably lasts like like the fullness of it, maybe like a whole song, right, of you just having that the what happens is that people touch it and they keep it in the body and they keep it here, and then it becomes like pain in the shoulders or pain in the gut, right? Or like it's like, I just touched it a little bit, so let me just hold it down, and it gets stored in the body. But it's energy in motion, emotion. It's
Mm.
energy that needs to move through your body. So actually, opening the door to letting energy move through you, release, whether it's a shame, fear, sadness, anger, rage, whatever it is. If you have the hygiene, because it's a hygiene practice of letting things move in and out through you without holding on to them, and then identifying them as a part of who you are, then what you keep is a clean dish, right? Or like what my friend
Yes.
Teo says, like a clean brush to paint with. right? He's an artist, and he says you got to keep cleaning the brush, right? And
Yes.
same thing. If we are not allowing ourselves to have the fullness of aliveness because we don't want to feel bad, we're also keeping ourselves from the good stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
I use that language very carefully. I try to stay away from good and bad because I think all is it
All
useful,
the
or is
same.
it, is it adding, or like what's the better use for language? Is it optimal, right? Like a better use
Yeah.
for language is like, is it optimal for me to keep shoving down my emotions, or is it more optimal to feel them for 90 seconds or 3 minutes and then empty myself from it? Yeah, sometimes we need support, and you're not supposed to do it alone. The thing is that we have been told you do it alone, and as women, like, stick it out and you don't need anybody, and like, be out in the world and be overly independent, and be strong and be beautiful and do all the things.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the day, we're just like, fuck, we have so much to do. Right? I gotta be perfect. I gotta have the money. I gotta have the guy. I gotta have the things. I gotta have the fuck. So we get it. By the way, we're having this conversation because we've been there.
Oh my God.
Lack
It's
like shame in the body, both of us.
oh, and it's crazy because now we get to see it this way. Once we do the work, right? You get to see this with a different heart. We get to practice it. I always say healing, it's linear. We don't stop. It's not that we don't get triggered. It's not that we don't get angry. It's not that we don't get emotional. No, we do, but we actually allow it, we allow it to just happen. We understand what it is. I feel like that when you start to heal, people are so in fear of like, oh, if I feel I'm gonna get hurt, and I'm like, great, let's do it, like live through it. The only way is through it in life. The only way is through it. We own zero control of things, and that's the most beautiful thing that we get, but we do get something called choice. And I feel like when we really sit with our choices in life and we own that responsibility and we bring back the power to like, no, 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 this, he didn't do that to me. I allow that. I was there. I allowed this to happen. I made the choice. It's not to be a victim, it's to recognize your choices, that you bring back that power. I think one of the things that really spike up my whole awakening and just healing was, hey, take responsibility. It's not that this person did this to you or this. No, no, no. Take full responsibility. Understand you're part of the journey, because that only is going to give you strength to continue moving forward. Because without the unseen, meaning without seeing that we were also a huge part of that journey, that I stopped doing that, not because he didn't like it or she didn't like it, is because I chose not to do it. Maybe it was to please them, and then in return to feel love, right? At the end of the day, it became a choice that I took. And the more we recognize that everything in our pattern, everything in our life ends up being our choice, the more we have the power to do something about it. The less we sit back and wait for something to change in us, the less we wait for someone or something to happen to change our circumstance, either how we feel, how we look, or how our life is shaping. The more we recognize that we're in full power of choice. Nobody can take that away from us. No one, and like you're saying, it's just all of it is one, and we go back to the main point, is the daily work that nobody really sees, but yet is necessary to get wherever you want to get. And part of the physical change when I worked with my one-on-one clients, or even people that I get to meet, like just how you show up in every second when somebody's seeing, not seeing, or evaluated, is how you do everything. How you do one thing is how you do it all, right? So I choose to do everything with love, with passion, no matter if I'm getting paid or not. Like, this is my life. This is my creation. I am the author of my world. So let me just write it to the way I want it. Let me just, people are like, you wake up so happy. I'm like, it's a choice. Like, it's a choice. Everything you do is a choice. And I think it's so important to get back into our power, because the more we recognize that, the more you will get exactly where you want, in your heart, in your mind, in your physical body, all of it.
Yeah, I really love I really, really love that. And I think what's so important about what you're saying is that it's like bringing in forgiveness, right? Because a lot of
Mm,
people are probably listening to this and they're saying, well, I was a child. I didn't have a choice then. And my invitation is that you start to also understand that there is a life longer than the physical life that you're living right now. And that perhaps in a different time you did something, right? Like we call this idea like, oh, karma is something bad that I gotta pay. No, it's a lesson. You came here because you were smart enough to learn a lesson. So you came here to learn a lesson, and actually is those wounds that eventually become the seeds for your uniqueness, for your gifts. You came here choosing to have those challenging circumstances. And I was just listening to an incredible woman this past weekend at TCCEH conference, and she had this amazing past, like she died of cancer, and then she
wow.
came back, and she came back with so much information from the other side. And one of the things she's sharing is how we are choosing all these experiences because they are giving us the opportunity to know ourselves, and we want to know ourselves in different ways. It's actually those imprints that maybe we didn't
Mm,
have a choice at that time. It was it the guy, the dad, the lack of love, the too much love, the right, whatever it was. Like,
mhm,
what if, and maybe not, no, just question, what if maybe that's what your soul needed in order for you to make the decision now that no one's coming, that you are the person that is in the choice. Maybe there's other people involved. Maybe, well, I'm in a relationship with this person right now, and I
mm,
can't change how they are treating me. You can do one thing. You can expand your energy vessel. You can allow yourself to focus your energy in going into yourself to look at your own wounding so that you can gain the gift and expand your energy vessel. And you expand, you vibrate at a different at a greater level. And when you're vibrating at a greater level, because you're literally having higher vitality because of the choices that you're making, the environment that you're putting yourself, the people that you're hanging out with, the books that you're reading, what you're allowing into you through your senses and your feelings, what feelings you're cultivating in your energy body, that
mm,
allows you to have a greater capacity for your love, to hold the intensity of love, because self-love and love of God, which is pure presence, can feel intense if you're not used to it. So you want
mm,
to keep giving yourself the capacity to feel the intensity of good feeling, because it's also a training. Can you train yourself to also feel good? To also
mm,
feel good, right? It doesn't necessarily need to be like work. Oh, I got to sit in my meditation and I got to go
mm,
to the gym. But what if actually you start to understand that the gift of doing the work, quote unquote, is actually the doing it. The gift of
mhm,
doing it is the practice itself, not what you will be in a year from now, but actually to do it without attachment to the outcome, to do it because
mm,
it is there that you feel. It feels so good to sit with myself. It feels so good
mm,
to make myself a good dish. It feels so good to move my body and to feel strong, and it feels so good to be kind to myself. This is like,
mm,
it goes really, it's taking me from thinking about when we stop the war with ourselves and we just
mm.
start allowing ourselves to be present, in presence. It's like one of the things that I see from my clients is like, this is, it's like they become more beautiful
Oh my God, yes.
instantly. It's like
Yeah.
all of them. And it's not
Mm,
that they go and do surgeries or they're, but it's just like all of a sudden there's a person on the other side with more vitality, with more presence, with healthier choices. They're there, they're passionate, they're excited. They look attractive because they have expanded their capacity to be here,
mhm.
right? To make conscious choices that makes their attitude and confidence like, like chest up, chest.
Yes.
And that's
You know,
healing.
I love that, sister. I love you saying that because the one thing that I remember as I was entering this journey of self-awareness and just acknowledging what healing is, what looked like for me, right? The first thing that I asked myself is remember who you are. Remember who you are before the imprint that you were led to or the pain that, like, remember. And when I kept asking myself that question, obviously at first there's no answer, like every single time that I would sit with myself, I didn't know how to meditate. I had a lot of busy mind, monkey mind, like I have OCD, ADHD, I have such a hyper brain. I would wake up and not sleep well, and I had so much ideas and all these things, like all this clutter. And I kept asking myself, in stillness, remember who you are. And a lot of things that happened through that question was understanding that my pain was my superpower. And when I say your pain becomes your superpower, the minute that I started shifting the mindset that I saw what I went through as a gift, that's when it became my superpower, right? Whatever pain I endure, it led me to learn something about myself that brought me back to who I am, right? It brought me back to my core. It brought me back to the questions of like, oh, so I started doing that for that. What if I don't? How can I actually feel love without policing or giving my power to somebody else? And the questioning and the curiosity becomes to lead you to finding out who you truly are, right? Not who you were taught to be. And you said something so beautiful, right? Some people are in partnerships that they're like, oh, I can't change this, I can't change that. And remember something. It's best to not have control over anything outside of you. Like, really is the best thing. Imagine we can barely control ourselves. We're even up into like that wheel, right? With our own life. Yet we want to control everything outside of us and feel in that path of like resistance. It's like, why can't I change it, right? I'm like, honey, you don't want to change it. You don't. It's a lot of work. So I think one of the things that came so clear to me and was sitting was, think about the outside as a mirror, right? If you go right into the mirror and your eye is dirty, do you clean the mirror or do you clean your eye, right? So it's like outside of you, do you clean it or do you go in? Like if I clean the mirror, my eye stays dirty, right? So if I don't feel love where I'm at, I don't have to change that. I have to go in. Like, why is it I don't feel love? Why is it that, no, why are they treating me this way? No, no, no. What is it? How am I treating myself? Because the minute that we start going, and that's my breakthrough, it was, okay, I have to clean my own eye, not the mirror. So how do I do that? We go back to curiosity, right? How do I do that? How do I clean my eye without the mirror? And then when we start to identify those patterns that we're doing that is allowing that to happen, and we start to shift, guess what else shifts? The mirror. All of a sudden, everything outside of you starts to either leave, you start changing friends, not because anything happened, but because you started to clean your eye here, not the mirror. So it's so beautiful because that analogy, I utilize it for everything that I do in life, right? Wherever I'm sitting or whoever I'm meeting, I'm like, oh, what is this showing as my reflection? Because they're my mirror. Everything it becomes a mirror, right? And your life, the way you see yourself, the way you conduct, the way you even take care of you starts to change. Because now what reflects from outside, now you understand where you are in life. And that becomes not only powerful, but it becomes acceptance. It becomes understanding. And it becomes truly unconditional love. Because you no longer see the outside of you as something bad, but as something that's guiding you more inwards than anything else. Right?
It's so,
So,
what a great analogy. I love like life is your mirror, but just like that simple thing. We all heard that, yeah, it's your mirror, but just clean your own eye. Like add that into the understanding that it is a holographic experience. Like it is actually like I could go science into what's happening in your pineal gland and how you're creating this, right?
yes,
It's like it's
yes.
actually a cone of light that is reflecting who you are out into the world, right? But that pointing a finger is actually pointing to the edge. Like really look at where the fingers are going. The majority of the fingers are going to you, and so if you're like this guy, like wherever you go, there you're gonna meet yourself. The idea, I need to change this because he does this and he does this and he does that. It's like, yeah, but wherever you go, you're still gonna have to face yourself. Like, and
Yes.
so be optimal with your energy. Don't waste 10 relationships, 10 years judging other people and trying to change other people. be optimal with your life and go
Mhm.
inwards, because I promise you the speed will be so much faster. There's so many women out there saying like, this always happens to me, and it's always guys like this, and it's always this friends who treat me like this, and people are always like this to me. It's like, okay, really? Maybe what's the common denominator there? Like, no
Yeah.
judgment. And also, how can you be optimal about it and actually do something with what's always there, which is you? The people change,
Mm.
circumstances change, your age changes, but what's the thing, what's the pattern that you are seeing through your life? And if you start to take note of like, what's the common
Mm.
thread here? And it's not that is it good or bad, but like, is it serving me still?
Mhm.
Not serving me, how can I actually nourish myself, not restrict myself? Really, I like the idea of thinking about food when it comes to this, which is like we can look at our spiritual life and our inner care and our inner healing the same way we look at food. Am I
Mm.
thinking about restricting myself? I'm gonna not give myself this because this is gonna give me X, or maybe my focus can go into, well, how can I nourish myself? What is the thing
Mm.
that's actually going to give me the greater level of vitality? What is the thing that, what are the choices? What are the environments? What are the people? Right? What are the
Mm.
actions of the books that are going to give me the right support for the person that I want to stand as? Strong
Yeah.
on the outside, beautiful on the outside, sexy in the inside, even if I'm not at my best. But like, it really starts with how you're being in the world. Sometimes, even if you're already doing the deep inner work, the reality outside of you is dense. It takes a little bit. So stay consistent, even in the moments where you're just like, okay, I've been doing this work. Don't do it. And really, I don't like to tell people what to do, but I will invite you to consider that reality, this is a dense world, and so stay consistent with it, because if you're doing it for an outcome, you're being transactional. And most of us,
Mm.
this is how we were taught to love ourselves and to love life, meaning I do something for you and you do something for me.
Mhm.
That is not true unconditional love. Unconditional love is, I do it because I can't, because it's my truth. I give to myself without expecting anything in return. So give to yourself in that way. Like, learn to love yourself without trying to check the box of like, did I get a return? But no,
Mm.
fully give, nourish yourself without thinking about, I gotta not do this. Think about, what can I do in order to move
Mhm.
forward? Eventually the reality in your life will match your inner essence, your frequency,
Yeah.
your radio station, right? What is the rhythm of your life? It really starts with how you're feeling, and stay consistent
Mm.
with that, even if the outside takes a little bit to match it.
Mm. Look at that. It goes all go back to a feeling, right? Which creates an outcome, which dictates your reality, right? So everything comes back around. So let's say you said something so beautiful as well, and it's outside of you, right? So whatever the transactional thing that was taught to us, I invite you to see it as how you do one thing is how you do everything. And if outside of me is just a reflection of myself, just really let that sink in, you know? How I treat others is how I treat myself. How I conduct myself, how I conduct outside is how I conduct inside, right? So if I go more deep into that and I really understand what relationship is to self and that it reflects on that mirror, wouldn't I choose to act or respond or be different? I always say to people are like, how do I start? What's the first step? And to me, honestly, the first step is to become curious. Curiosity will lead you somewhere else, but curiosity into self. Meaning, when you meet someone, what do? You ask them a million questions. You want to get to know them, right? Like, where were you born? What were you like? What's your story? Like, what school did you go to? Like, it's all these questions of curiosity because you're willing, like, you want to know this person for whatever reason. I want you to do that, and I invite you to do that for you. Who are you? Like, really, really sit with yourself and, like, who am I? Why do I like that and not like that? Like, question everything internally just so you, like, get to know you. And I feel like that for me was the first step. I was so much on autopilot my entire life. I was led to do so many things. I allow it to be. I look for answers outside of me, for direction, for guidance. When little did I know that all the answers were inside of me, I was just asking out. I was asking. I was always such a curious child, which it got me in so much trouble. But even now, I am the most curious person. And I think that's why every pain that I endure in my life, whether it was physical, emotional, spiritual, in any capacity, it led me to a question. And that question eventually became an answer. And when I have this saying that once you see, you cannot unsee. And when I take my clients to a process where we are peeling layer after layer, depending on your season and your state of readiness, right? You start to see a part of you that you can unsee. And if I start to see that, that means there's no rebound. That means there's no going backwards, right? The problem is not the rice or the bread, right? The problem is your relationship to it, right? The problem is not society or social media or the news. It's just your relationship to things, right? So we start to realize with question and curiosity, why is that I do this, or how do I do this, and get to know fully yourself. You're going to start seeing a part of you that you've never seen. And that leads you to become who you truly are. That leads the body to change in ways, and mind and heart, to something that you've never even endured or been in. And when you start to embody that, you remember the past as something beautiful. You connect the dots looking backwards beautifully. You start to understand the pattern. But the one thing that you will never go back is to being that old self.
It's so
And that's why even like sometimes people go back and I share journeys because everybody wants to see my past, right? And it's so beautiful because I'm like, she was different. And I say she because she's no longer a part of me. She was who made me get to here, right? Each part of us dies and we're reborn. This is why I came, and I think it was a message given to me about rise. Rise is basically rebirth. And we have so many rebirth through our whole season that we call life, right? We have rebirth when we start first grade in school and we need to become this, right? We want to be light. And then we go into middle school, elementary, and every season of our life becomes a rebirth. It's just we don't understand it at that point, right?
Yeah.
You mentioned something that I don't want to leave neglected, which is as a child, go back and we're like, how can we forgive? We didn't have a choice. And as my own experience, where I did endure those views, it was about going back to self to not only forgive, because I think it's something that we have to I get to honor, but it's something that when I went back to her, to my inner child, I just wanted to hold her and just be it, not see and not be like, oh, I didn't choose this for me. It was more of like sitting with her and allowing her to be. Because just by seeing all our size and our shapes and our seasons in life, forgiveness also shows up as just being seen. Forgiveness also shows up as just acceptance and understanding and acknowledging that it did happen. It did, and feeling and allowing that feeling to sit with it for a little bit and understand and accept and love and honor it.
without trying
And
to
that's
change it, without trying to change it or make it into anything immediately, but just the same thing. Like your presence is God in action. Is that simple? Your presence is God in action. That's why you have the responsibility to be respectful of who you share it with and to give it to yourself, because you looking at yourself, you looking at all the people that you had to be in order to become the person that will and does protect those parts in you, right? Like
yeah.
you have become, like, allow yourself to shower your own inner being with the presence of God, which is your own conscious awareness. And when you do that, Forgiveness is not something that you're doing because you're saying I agree with what you did. You're forgiving because you understand that you no longer need to carry the
Mm.
the weight, like, right, physical, emotional, spiritual. You don't no longer need to carry the weight of any of the actions of no one else, because you can now find the gift by moving into your own choice, which is your God-given potential. You are here to be in your own power, and that's really the conversation we wanted to bring to you today. Healing our shame, healing the body, starts with doing the whole system, like giving yourself the immense amount of body, mental, emotional love that you deserve, and you deserve it because you are alive. You being alive means that you are a particle of divinity here. You are a part of this earth. Like, you are worthy not because you need to earn it. You are worthy because you are. Your story is not who you are. You are so much more than your story, and you can grab your story and love it and own it, because when you own it, it becomes nourishment for your creations and for what you're here to create. And then you pass it on. And that's the power, when we can pass on our story.
Mm.
I'm so grateful for this time with you. I think we can go for probably like 3 more hours on.
Oh yeah.
And this is like, usually with like, we just saw each other for lunch the other day, and it was like 3 hours later, and we're like, what happened?
What is time?
What is that? Where can people find you?
Oh, well, you can find me anywhere. You can look me up as Ana Capozzoli on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, soon with YouTube, where I share most of my knowledge, education as much as I can, and I'm willing to share more and more and more. So, yes.
Yeah. Anna is an incredible mentor, but also like, so, artist. Hello, I'm loving her social media. I'm learning so much from her, and just taking all the notes of all the good things that you could do for your body and your state, and really loving her development as a creator on those
Thank you.
platforms. I want to just share that we're also relaunching my women's group, my the Alchemy of the Sacred Feminine, and this is a journey of the soul. It is going into the embodiment of our divinity and sacred leadership. And you're not here to perform. That's the work. We're moving into performance to reclamation so we can rise, right? I love this, how our work
Yeah.
intertwines. We don't have to do this work alone. Find your mentors, find your tribe, allow yourself to know that you are the sanctuary of evolution that you need, and you are required to be in love with life, not with another person, with all of it. And this is the work that we move into our this women's container. I know this is the kind of work that Anna does. So please stay connected with us. Please drop us a comment, subscribe, stay here, stay in our field. Would love to continue to grow with you. And Anna, we have to do this again.
Yes, would love to. Much love, sister. Thank you for having me. And so much blessing and growth along this way. Again, you guys, please subscribe if you want to hear anything, if you have any questions, if you want to know more about something. Come on, involve yourself. Community, I think it's a part of us, and we are just here to message or show you something that's already inside of you. So subscribe, comment, and follow for more.
Yeah.
Yay. Thank you.